Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Saturday. In this video, we are looking at the showdown picks tonight between the Patriots and the Colts. We have NFL games for 4 straight days, with a couple of the games getting postponed. We were supposed to have a 2-game slate today, which would have been fun, but the Browns game got postponed. The Eagles game got postponed tomorrow to Tuesday. So now we're looking at a nice little stretch of NFL. I think 8 of the next 10 days have NFL games, unless more get postponed. But let's get into the video. As always, if you enjoy the content, appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. The NBA is absolutely crazy right now. It seems like you can't really get into any analysis with the NBA until close to lock, with half the teams getting ruled out with players. But we just got to make do with what we have. Hopefully things change soon. Looking at the best plays today, Jonathan Taylor has to be the number one option. He's 19-2 in the captain spot, 12-8 in the flex. I really have no problem playing him in either spot. I definitely want to have him in my lineup. He has 18 touchdowns on the season. All 18 have come after week 3. And you can run the ball a bit on the Patriots. They are very good against the pass. I expect Frank Reich to really establish Jonathan Taylor early in the game at home. So Taylor, I prefer him over Pittman, even though he's a bit cheaper at 10-4. If I just had to pick between one of the two, big play guys on the Colts, it would be Jonathan Taylor by a mile. Carson Wentz, you can now pair him with Jonathan Taylor, just because Taylor's not really coming off the field too much. Even in third down situations, Taylor is still being on the field and getting some targets. So he does give you upside to catch some passes. Really is going to be getting you a ton of carries, like 32 carries. Some of these games, they are just pounding it with Jonathan Taylor. The Mac Jones coming off of a week where he only threw the ball 3 times. And then that was just because of the weather going on in Buffalo. Crazy winds. It was snowing. Should go back to throwing the ball in the 20s, maybe close to 30 times, depending on how the game goes. They're still not a team that loves to rely on Mac Jones' arm. If they're trailing, they will, but they really like to rely on the running game, which is going to be more difficult today because Damian Harris is out. So you're going to see Stevenson get a lot of the carries. He's probably looking at 20 to 25 carries. He's not been much of a factor in the receiving game over the past few weeks, so that should go to Bolden. If he's able to suit up, he's currently questionable. But if he suits up, it's only $1,800. I think he makes like a very, very good play in the flex. If you want it to be sneaky, you can play my captain. Hope that he gets a touchdown, then you can pay out for all the other guys, all the other stars. There are a number of guys that are cheap on the slate that we'll get to, but just in terms of the notably high-priced players, Stevenson is still definitely firmly in the mix. Jacoby Myers, I like him, even though Bourne is more expensive, and Bourne has been the bigger play threat as of late. He has 6 touchdowns on the year, but Myers still is leading the team, leading the wide receivers in terms of reception. He has 59 receptions. He's not really known to get into the end zone, but he's still on Draftkings, at least the PPR sites. He still gives you a solid floor in a game that I do expect the Colts to win this one, so I think the Patriots will be throwing the ball a little bit more in the second half. Hunter Henry, $6,400 in the flex. He's a guy you would play at the flex. I wouldn't use my captain spot on Hunter Henry. I kind of think I would go with the cheaper tight end route instead of paying over $6,000 for Hunter Henry. Just go with Jonnu Smith. Smith gets a few less snaps than Hunter Henry, but I don't think it'll be too much of a difference if Hunter Henry gets you like 8 fantasy points and Smith gets you like 3 or 4. Then you can use the extra couple $1,000s to pay up for maybe Jonathan Taylor or some like Carson Wentz or another star. And speaking of the guys that are just super cheap, that are viable, usually don't have this many cheap players that are viable on a showdown slate, but you have Doolin, touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. He's been still getting a decent amount of snaps. He's still behind Pascal, T.Y. Hilton, and obviously Michael Pittman, but he's getting like 20 to 30 to close to 40% of snaps some weeks. One big play against Tampa for the touchdown, then he had a short 2-yard reception for a touchdown. At $1,400, he makes some sense. They're not getting and especially with how Zach Pascal has been struggling. He had some drops recently, just not really been catching a lot of his target shares. Wouldn't be surprised if Doolin might get some more snaps this week if Pascal struggles early on. So he's one guy that you want to keep an eye on. Another guy is Mo Alley Cox. His price tag has dropped all the way to just $1,000. He's still being on the field for over 40% of the tight end snaps. They like to utilize 2 tight ends, sometimes utilize 3 tight end sets, but you're going to be seeing a lot of at least 2 tight end sets with Mo Alley Cox and Jack Doyle, and even though he's not getting a ton of targets, he still gives you touchdown upside. 4 touchdowns on the year. He's going to be utilized near the goal line if they have to throw the ball, just with his big body. So I prefer Mo Alley Cox over Doolin, but both guys are in play. And then you can even maybe take a shot on like Granson. He's behind those other 2 guys, but he's been even getting a lot of snaps recently as well. He's been 30 to 40 the last couple of weeks. He's getting 2 targets, 3 straight weeks. Maybe one of those goes for, like, all you need is like one of that to go for a big play or to go for like a touchdown, and you're going to be really, really happy. He's probably going to make the optimal in that case. I like those guys way more than like Harry. Has not been any factor. He's just utilized for blocking. Mac hasn't been a factor at all. They were trying to trade him, but they probably didn't get any good offers. And that is it. Don't think I'll look to any cheaper, anybody in the $200 range. So looking at some lineup builds, we'll do one with the Jonathan Taylor at captain. Still try to get to Carson Wentz. You have $5,200 in terms of the Patriots pieces. I'm assuming that Bolden plays, and if he does, $1,800 is too cheap for a guy that we'll be looking at extra snaps without Damian Harris and probably some extra targets out of the backfield. If you want to double stack the running backs, Bolden and Stevenson, definitely something that looks reasonable. We can go with like Mo Alley Cox at $1,000. And we have $9,800 left to plug in Mac Jones. So this is probably a bit of a chalky approach, I would say, but I think it's one that's very good for cash games. You get your stud running back, guy with 2-3 touchdown upside at the top. You get both quarterbacks in here. You get both running backs from the Patriots that are going to be big factors, Stevenson and Bolden. And then you get Mo Alley Cox to pair with Carson Wentz. Hope that he catches a touchdown. This is probably like my favorite build out of the ones that I've looked at. Some other ones we can look to is maybe play like Carson Wentz at captain. See how much money that allows us to save. Still get to Jonathan Taylor. Still probably get to Mac Jones. We can get to Mo Alley Cox at $1,000. I definitely want to play Bolden, $1,800. And we have 96. So you just miss out on Pittman. We try to plug him in. You're probably going to have to go down. You're going to have to go down to, for Mac Jones, so like Stevenson or Kendrick Bourne. But this one is reasonable. I like the other one a lot better. Especially with like Pittman being more expensive than both of the quarterbacks. I don't agree with that. So Pittman is probably the guy that I'm going to fade, I'd say, out of the top 4. Just because definitely prefer Jonathan Taylor. I prefer Carson Wentz. And even Mac Jones, I think, can outscore Pittman, and he's cheaper. So let's do another one with Jonathan Taylor at captain. I think that might be the best approach, just with how cheap he is. We have 36.66 left. If I had to pick a kicker, I would look to Nick Folk. He's been super accurate. They let him kick 50-plus yarders. He's in Indy, so in the dome, which will allow him to kick 50-plus yarders without really any issue with the wind or anything like that. Plug in Mo Alley Cox, and now we have $5,800 left. You can plug in one of these Colts receivers. Hope that they can come through. T.Y. Hilton, Zach Pascal, Aguilar. With the way Zach Pascal's been struggling, give me T.Y. Hilton over him. He's still not getting a ton of targets, but you've seen 5+ targets some of these weeks. He still gives you that big play upside, even though the Patriots are tough to pass the football. 58 cheap price tag on T.Y. Hilton. I do think the Colts will win, so I'm getting 4 Colts. A couple of New England pieces in here as well. So that looks reasonable to me. If you wanted to play like the Colts defense, you could do that at 36. Mac Jones has turned the ball over at times. The Patriots defense has come alive recently, but I probably wouldn't play them just because I like the Colts' chances to win the game and put up at least some points with Jonathan Taylor. But this one we didn't get to Bolden, which might be a mistake. So still like Bolden, and we can try to upgrade for 82 for Stevenson. I still think this is like the best lineup that you can probably build today. So in terms of just core plays, Jonathan Taylor would be the key piece at captain. $1,800 for Bolden. And I would go with Carson Wentz are the 3 best pieces. I'd probably just keep Mac Jones if you wanted to, but at least these 3 would be like really good core pieces on this slate. So that's it for DraftKings. Let's talk about FanDuel. So for FanDuel, no surprise, Jonathan Taylor is sitting at 17.5. He still has the best odds to be the highest scoring player on the slate, so he makes the most sense to plug into your MVP spot. Give me Carson Wentz with him. I like him more than Mac Jones. Stevenson, $12,000 still with the amount of carries that he's looking at. Goal line work now without Damian Harris. He looks like a great play. Myers, still like him a little bit more than Kendrick Bourne. Hunter Henry is pretty expensive at 10.5. That seems to be a pass. T.Y. Hilton at 9,000, also expensive. You can still make it work. You have an 82.50 left, but you have Zach Pascal at only 7K, so a lot different story between Pascal and T.Y. Hilton's price tag between the sites. I'd play Pascal over Doolin, $500 more. Pascal is still getting at least more snaps. And then you have Jonnu Smith at only 6,000. He looks very good. Take a look at Bolden's price. He's 75. If you plug him in, we have 9,000 left to plug in. T.Y. Hilton, you could do that if you still wanted to pay up for him, or you can plug in the kicker and Badgley, who was the former Charger. This one, you have a 3-2 stack. Pretty reasonable. The kickers have been showing up on the showdown slates and putting up some solid scores and being in some optimals. So that is approach. I think getting both of the New England running backs is just super safe. Wouldn't be surprised if all the touchdowns come from these guys, and Mac Jones, throws the ball like 20, 25 times, but doesn't really focus on one specific receiver and just spreads the ball out. On FanDuel, it's tougher because you're only getting half a point per reception. So I'll probably focus on the running backs a bit and maybe look to one of the kickers here. And Jack Doyle is cheap enough at 65 if you wanted to plug in him. To pair with Carson Wentz, we could upgrade. We have upgrade to play Mac Jones if you wanted to do that over Stevenson. Or we have 10,000 to plug in Jacoby Myers, somebody like that. But these three are sure the core pieces for me on FanDuel. Stevenson, similar to on DraftKings, he's expensive, but I'm just going to get a lot more work without Damian Harris, especially near the goal line. I still like Bolden if he plays. But that's about it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck on the showdown slate. I'll be back later to post the final look picks for tomorrow. So I'll see you all next time.